Hi there, everybody. My name is Kim Day, and I'm here with Mandy Murphy, our principal at the Village School, as well as Alex Rosenstein, Village School psychologist, and the fourth, fifth, and sixth guidance counselors, Kate Dulac and Jeff Newsome. Hopefully, these are all familiar faces to you, but if not, we are here today. We've been working together as part of the social emotional learning subcommittee that was formed. We've been working throughout the year on various initiatives at the schools, focusing kind of on mental health, not just for our students, but our staff and our teachers as well. And as part of those initiatives is this video series. And you may have seen that Jack Ettridge did one with Dan Bauer and Tess Kearney at the high school talking about the initiatives there. And today we thought it would be a great opportunity to share all the amazing things that are happening at the Village School and hopefully share maybe some more information about mental health resources that are available at the Village School if you may not be aware. So welcome everybody to this series, and I will hand it off to Mandy, I believe.
All right. Hi, thanks for having us here. I believe we're pretty lucky at Village School. We have a pretty fabulous social emotional support team here. We meet weekly to talk about things that are coming down the road, or not even things that are coming down the road, things that might have happened. And we've been excited throughout the year as we make many changes for what that means for our students and how to help them through those transitions and welcoming them in with their smiling eyes, as I call it every day, and helping them to have those smiling eyes too. So as a former counselor here at Village, again, as I said, we're really lucky, and I couldn't be prouder of this team and the work that they've done to support students, whether they're home or whether they're in school, and making that effort to really support students home and in school throughout the year. So
Great. Alex, did you want to talk a little bit more about we've talked a couple of times about some of the challenges and how the school has been addressing those over the past year?
Sure, we sort of as a group did some brainstorming and, thought about what were the different challenges that we felt like from a social emotional perspective we needed to meet this year. Obviously loss was a big one. Some people lost loved ones from COVID, some people just the loss of normalcy for everybody. The loss of being in school with friends at times, and getting that academic support that they're used to. A lot of transitioning out of school to be remote last spring, transitioning back to a hybrid schedule, transitioning into a different sort of hybrid schedule, transitioning to a full schedule. It's been a lot on students, it's been a lot on teachers, it's been a lot on parents. And so just, trying to support all of that. I think kids this age, any change in schedule and routine is hard. So, we've just been really impressed with students and families and how they've rolled with everything and all the changes this year. Academic engagement for some kids has been hard, for some that are remote because it's just such a change, for some that are, hybrid or now back full time. All of those changes have been tough, and academic engagement at times has been challenging. Isolation, I think, is another big one that we talked about. Being isolated from peers, isolated from families, all the supports that we usually rely on when we are dealing with stress, were taken away as we're used to them. Obviously, we could still meet, by video, and as the time has gone on since last spring, that's changed, and we've been able to do much more in person. But that was another one, this sort of isolation. And I think we've done a lot, and you guys can jump in at any time with this stuff, but I think we've done a lot of different things as a school district and as a school to try to meet those needs, from in-person meetings with families and students, whether that was, even going to people's houses when we were really, socially distancing, to meetings in person, meetings by video, so just those human connections, human touch points. Introducing advisory, which they've had at vets for a long time, but taking that model and putting that here because we felt like, to meet some of those social needs. And so that's looked different throughout the year, but that was a big thing.
Do you think that that'll continue even after this school year?
I hope so.
It is something my children have at least mentioned as something that they hope continues.
That's been something I've been trying to figure out how to do for a long time. It is an advisory program. And I think with the pandemic and looking at the beginning of the year and how to make those social connections for students, we took a bad situation and made the best of it. And so making those small groups and being able to utilize staff throughout the entire building during that time, I think has been really helpful. We were able to connect allied arts teachers and special ed teachers and gen ed teachers and guidance counselors. And I was even able to cover a couple of times and jumped into some advisories. So it was fun to connect with the students on a different level and have them know students from different classes too, which was really a fantastic way to go. And I think it's helped too with our students that have been remote to stay connected. So when we came back in person, we still were able to do those groups and have our remote students in a group with people that were in person, and that's really important to keep those connections. So next year, as we're looking at the schedule and looking at different things, we already have that blocked off in our schedule. So we're excited to keep that going and give it a different structure next year based off of being back in school. So
yeah, I'd say also make it even better. This is our first year having advisories and running an advisory program, and so knowing what vets does and using maybe a little bit of their model, but then being in fully remote and then switching to in-person, we changed it. And it'll be evolving for the advisories, but definitely it's been a great way for children to connect with staff in the building, not just their teacher, or maybe even have their teacher as their advisor, but have that deeper connection. I think I can speak to some of the other things from the guidance department that we've done this year, and we've kind of always done, but it just highlighted how important it was some small groups that we were able to still do even via Zoom when we were remote, highlighting those needs that Alex mentioned. Definitely the feeling of isolation, and that was a good way of bringing them together with some of their peers that they aren't seeing on a regular basis. Maybe they're not in their Zoom classroom. So that's been helpful. And the individual check-ins, Jeff and I both were doing that with students who the engagement piece was really challenging, perhaps calling home on the days they were home during the hybrid model and saying, you know what you're doing today? Do you have everything lined up? I'm ready to go. So, again, it's the connection, it's making that contact, but also having a purpose for the phone call. And that was, I think, really helpful for many children and families. And of course, being available for parents and having a lot of conversations with parents around strategies to keep their kids engaged or to make their kids feel like they're still part of the school, even though we're not physically here or with big groups. So that's been helpful, I think.
And then also, the social workers and psychologists really worked hard to put together a resource mental health page that is on the back to Marblehead website. And that was very useful for all different scenarios, from food insecurities to then looking at financial supports, and really going hand in hand with the parents to help find those resources. And once we were able to identify the concerns, the mental health was a little bit of a challenge based on the fact of the in-person was more via video. So, but just being able to present options for that additional support outside in the community, but really trying just to network and pass on information that's beneficial to all, was a huge piece. And once we knew and parents made contact, because it's always an open door, open email and open telephone to make that contact, then we get the ball rolling to utilize resources or get some information going. So we have the support there. The big thing that I wanted to talk but I seem to always repeat, which was already said by all three of my counterparts, is
It's
connecting the remote piece. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm sure it's worth repeating.
But connecting the remote piece, because that was really a piece of our concentration, because, even though you're not walking through the hallways physically, you're still part of Village, and making sure that we had the technology running accurately, making sure the websites, everything, we were shell shocked last March 13th. And, we went through, we dealt with it, but then as we found the hiccups and the struggles, we were able to put those kind of supports in play, better technology, because that was one of my most frustrating things, as I sounded like a robot and my face would freeze. And I can only imagine how frustrating that could be for a child on the other side receiving end, but also even trying to share their thoughts. So then all of a sudden you're adding another layer of that frustration. So as we kind of understood the problems and had a great IT program here that was very helpful with getting additional devices out to families to help with that, looking at different resources in the community to help with hotspots to help with families, because if you're not here in person, what's the best way that you can be still connected is technology. So we had to make sure that we had the best roots of technology success. So that was a big piece of our concentration, is making sure, like our announcements, it wasn't just the Pledge of Allegiance for the kids standing here at school, but every morning for those logging in, boom, there it was, that message every day, hearing what's going on. So just that constant communication, which was a key piece. The advisories were huge to get those kids with their peers, with an adult, that really created some good connections together. And then it evolved to the kids back to their teachers, but now having that regular grouping of kids that they're used to see, and then still following with some social emotional support lessons and discussions and things like that. So the advisory, I think, was one of the bigger, better things that I was most impressed with to help us through this difficult time, which really helped connect kids and let kids know that they're heard or they're seen, and that everyone's important. So that was a huge piece. And it took a village to do it. And that was a proud moment to say,
To do it, for sure. I definitely heard from my children how much they valued that time. And I can't emphasize enough how much I appreciate. Even when I come to the school to volunteer, you can feel the energy now that the kids are back, right? And I see all of you working so hard and making it light and meeting them at their level, right? And I think that goes so far. And when it comes to, not just to them just being kids, right, and kind of giving them that sense of normalcy, but like recognizing that the year that they've been through, right, that you've all been through, quite frankly, and trying to give them some fun back, right? That school should be fun. It should be a place that they want to be, not just because they're with their peers, but because of the interactions that they have. So I just hope that it continues to be supported, the social emotional learning, and gets highlighted on a regular basis, because I really do think it's so very important on so many levels. It's the whole child, as we always hear you say so well. So is there anything that you want to mention before we wrap up, just in terms of like looking forward between now and the end of the year? I know I'm sure with MCAS, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you taking the time to even do this video, but if there's anything you want to add before we wrap up, let me know.
Mandy, were you about to say something before?
Well, I wanted to know a little bit about, moving forward, and we have some exciting events coming up for the end of the year, and with, restrictions loosening too, it's nice, and it feels a little, the end is in sight, but it's also important. And we've had conversations lately to realize what students have been through and what we have to do when we're talking about free time, and how the energy is positive and good, and they're playing like kids, and we love that. It's just so healthy, but also recognizing that there's a lot of skills that the kids, in terms of social skills, that they are normal, for this point in the year that aren't that we're trying to catch them up with, and teach them, off of screen time, what it looks like, and communicating with one another, and teaching them recess rules over again. And I'm not saying recess like structured recess, but more, what is it like to have free time, because they haven't had free time with peers in so long. So I just think that's the piece for us as a community moving forward, to help give students those skills and strategies to be successful socializing. And they're doing it, but it's just important to note that it's okay. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle for them for a little while, and we're going to help them through it.
Yeah, it's an adjustment for everybody to get back to normal, for sure.
Definitely. And I just wanted to also add, something that when we were talking about what we wanted to talk about when we spoke to you, I think all of us felt strongly that as hard as this has been, we've also seen, a lot of growth in students in the areas, particularly of resilience and independence. I see students doing things now independently that there's no way they would have been able to do prior to having had to do it on their own and be more on top of their schedule and all that stuff. And there's some that have a really hard time with that, and I absolutely understand that. And but I have also seen a tremendous amount of growth come from all of this too.
I agree.
Great to hear. Well, thank you all again so very much. I hope the other schools will do the same and take part in doing one of these video series, because I know that there's a lot of great work that's happening at all of the schools. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank you
Kim.
so much.
Go Village.